the relationship with food that people have is incredibly complex, and we all have a different way of looking at what food is. And is it a reward? Is it a right? Is it nourishment, or is it just something that you do with a mindlessness to it? There's so much, what is it?
Well, I think about it as food noise. Personally, I didn't even realise how much food noise was in my life until I was probably 6 months into eating metabolically. I was like, I have not self-patrolled myself around food consumption. I have not berated myself about anything that I've eaten. I have not felt like I have let myself down with the way, and I would not have identified as somebody who had any type of eating disorder whatsoever. This was just noise that I think is incredibly common in our society and experienced by most people to some degree. And once I understood that about myself, because of its absence, not because I realized it was there in the first place, once I realized that about myself, I started to understand so much more about disordered eating, and that ordered eating really stemmed from disordered feelings and disordered thoughts around food, and that creating structure around food actually gave me freedom from it. And I see that that's the way I work with people who know that they have disordered eating. I think the beauty of metabolic balance is that it's not about restriction. It's all about finding the balance that's right for you. And that once you actually crack that, then the freedom from food noise is really quite profound.
And welcome to the Metabolic Balance Stories podcast. This is where we share real stories and insights to help you on your journey to optimal health with personalised nutrition and metabolic balance. I'm Cherry Wills, I'm your host, and today I'm delighted to welcome a fabulous practitioner, Araleena Isse. And today we are going to discuss the realistic and sustainable nature of health transformation through metabolic balance. So hello, Araleena. It's wonderful to have you here. This is one of my favourite topics, and I think this is also one of your favourite topics too.
Yes. This is one of my favourite things to talk about and to witness, actually. The best part of it is I get to witness it with so many people.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if we start off, I think it would be really interesting for you to start off sort of sharing your insights into that real long-term getting well with metabolic balance, because it's not curing anything. We are just slowly really building up the resilience and just getting the body well.
Yeah, it's so tempting to believe that we can just move from struggling with our health and our weight to like overnight wholesale change. But I don't find that is quite as powerful as what I see happen to people over a number of years. Once they start eating metabolically, they start to uncover bit by bit new parts of themselves, and that week by week, month by month, noticing that you have more energy, noticing that you have better clarity of thought, better sleep, better stress resilience. And it's sort of like like unspooling a big mess of string or a huge mess of wool. And little by little, you start unraveling that mess and creating your nice, neat ball of wool. And I think it really surprises people how far they actually get when, instead of seeing it as a monumental, unobtainable thing, when they just break it down and each day they eat great food, drink enough water, and get enough rest, that that builds each day. It builds and builds and builds.
Yeah, I think it's so important to remember where a lot of people come from. They don't just overnight become chronically ill and unwell. It's a slow kind of process of somebody slowly going down a path of just their body not really, being well. And various conditions showing themselves, inflammation really ramping up and building and causing issues. And I think that's really where we have to remember that what we are doing is we are bringing in the right foods that really ensure that somebody can kind of, I like to almost say we flick a switch and put everything into a different direction. And we're just building that resilience and that repair and that, like you say, that unraveling of the mess in order to, and then see really how somebody can be well.
I think as well, the way we eat, that has formed from childhood. So I'm thinking of one particular client that I've worked really closely with, and I worked with naturopathically for quite a long time, and they had a soft drinking habit that had formed in their childhood, and they carried it through into their early 50s, and it had always caused problems, but the problems just started escalating in their 40s and their 50s. And look, we see this really commonly, I guess, or I see this commonly. And when I was working with her naturopathically, I was doing all the right things. She was making the best effort she could, but we were always struggling with the soft drink. When we moved to metabolic balance, because her metabolism was more strongly supported, she actually was able to kick a 50-year soft drink habit. And the change that I've witnessed in her over the last 12 weeks, she's just graduated, is incredible. And that's not the end of the change, because I think this is the thing, is that what I'll get to see is I'll get to see that change evolve over the next couple of years. It doesn't stop after 12 weeks. People just keep getting stronger. For this particular person, she has lost 12 kilos easily. And so she describes it as melting off. She's like, I just enjoy the food that I'm eating. I don't feel any urge to eat anything else. She's got very complex health, inflammatory health conditions that have sort of arisen, like you said, over a really long period of time. And they're starting to get a little more and more manageable, just a little bit every day more manageable.
Oh, yeah.
Less brain fog, more energy. And it's just happened very, very consistently over the last 3 months.
It's people really digging, like understanding how they can feel. So you slightly start to fall in love with this idea of, I actually could feel good here. I do feel good. I want to carry on feeling like this. I don't want this feeling to stop. Therefore, I'm going to carry on just doing what I'm doing because I just love how I'm feeling. And you are eating beautiful, whole, gorgeous, fresh, vibrant food at the same time. So it's a win-win in every sense.
I reckon that really captures it, because it becomes not about drinking soft drink or not drinking soft drink. It becomes, I have my breakfast and I feel good and have enough energy to, she had a physical job. So suddenly she had enough energy to get through to lunch. And she's like, I drank water, I felt good. I ate breakfast, I felt good. I would get hungry and I'd realize that lunch was coming up in half an hour and I'd eat lunch. And then I'd have enough energy to do my physical job in the afternoon. And then I'd get really hungry and I'd notice that dinner was only 20 minutes away. And so whereas before it was always trying to deal with the urge to drink soft drinks, because her metabolism was under functioning and wasn't giving her enough energy for her body or her brain to get through.
Yeah. It was reaching for the short-term quick fix solution to the immediate problem of, that dip in energy or that dip in a crisis point. Yeah, let's fix a crisis point, but then we're always lurching from one crisis to another crisis, as opposed to just actually just doing, sailing through the day in a nice, steady and controlled way. You've worked a lot with people who have got that, a much bigger health journey. So it is those people that are needing to or wanting to release sort of 30 plus kg. How would you talk about their journeys?
I get really inspired by their journeys because having an opportunity to live a little bit differently and then really enjoying it and focusing on how good they feel and really listening to their bodies. And when I hear those ingredients coming together, I get super excited because I know that if people are able to bring themselves to experiencing the positivity and the energy and what I notice is even at the beginning of their big journey of like wholesale body change, that often what they'll be saying to me is, I just feel more relaxed about my body. They might be a quarter of the way to where they want to be, but they are already feeling so much better in themselves. And that gives me giggles. As soon as they start saying things like that, I'm like, because what I know is if they start feeling better in and of themselves and they're enjoying the food and they seeing it as an enjoyment, like this is actually me getting to enjoy my life, then that's sustainable. And when I'm working with metabolic balance, sustainability for me is the key. It's not how quickly can I release weight or how quickly can I get to my goals. It's how do I make eating and my relationship with food sustainable, not just when I'm at home, but when I'm socializing, when I'm at work, when I'm on holiday. How do I eat and live in a sustainable way? And when people reach that sustainability, I now know, because I've been a metabolic balance practitioner for years, I now know they've achieved something really impressive, and I know where that can take them. And it's because if you just change, I'm going to cut out carbs, or I'm going to eat this different style, and you make this sort of change and you get somewhere, but it's a constant effort, then that's not going to produce the long-term results that I know people can achieve with metabolic balance. Because what I see many, many of my clients who have required decades of naturopathic support to just be able to live a normal life and are carrying 30, 40, sometimes 50 kilos above what they feel and is clearly above what is a good weight for them. And I know the sort of cost and effort that they undertake for a long period of time before they find metabolic balance. And that I also know once they find metabolic balance and they find that sweet spot of sustainability with it, where they feel like, I love what I eat and I love how I'm living, I know that over the course where they will get to.
Yeah, because I think that's I love that point, the sweet spot. I try so hard to get the message across that we're not looking for perfection. What we need is the right space for each person, so it actually works for them. but that they're not, that they're also being real with what they actually do have to do as well. Because, we have to accept that there are a lot of toxic things in our world. There's a lot of toxic foods, foods in inverted commas here. They're not actually food. They're just stomach filling kind of substances that in the short term won't kill you, but over the long term, you will slowly build up in that inflammatory response. And it's that understanding that, the idea that you just do sort of focused good health or good eating for you for a short period of time, and then you revert back to a standard Western diet that led you to your problems in the first place. It's actually understanding that sweet spot of space that really allows you to continue feeling good and allows the health journey to continue evolving and be expressed in that feeling of good health.
It's really getting people to shift from unconsciously eating whatever is in front of them to tuning in to their body and discovering what their body needs. And I find it almost always tracks back right into childhood. One of the most profound things actually that you taught me, Cherry, is that there are only two places that food ends up. One of them is the toilet and the other one is the bin. And so many of us have been indoctrinated with the belief that we have to eat everything that is given to us, everything that is put in front of us, everything that is in the supermarket, everything that our children don't eat in their lunchbox, that it all must be consumed by us in order for us to have value or life to have value or the food to have value. But it's not true. And when people start actually listening to what food their body wants to eat, when they eat things, how do they feel, what feels good, what feels really ordinary. When people learn that it's not just about what they eat, but how they eat, like the schedule in which they eat. I find that in my weekly sessions, I run weekly coaching with my clients, and that what I teach most is actually how the metabolism works. That when we eat, our body goes into a food storage mode, and that if you are eating every couple of hours, your body is just store, and it's never being prompted to burn anything. A lot of diets and food solutions are all about what you consume and not enough about how you consume and why metabolic balance is the way it is. Like, why is there this structure around eating food? So I find that once people realize that, it's life-changing.
Yeah. And it's really enjoying the times that you are eating as well. It's actually really ensuring that we're regularly fueling 3 lovely meals a day. We are, having really good food in those meals. And it's a really sustainable way of moving forward into the future. But there's always going to be, and it's important to have the celebratory times, as well. We have to. I love being able to have the relationship with food. That means you can celebrate in the way that you enjoy the event, you enjoy the people around you. But the pressure is off around how much having to eat, or even how I'm going to feel at our post event. How the recovery period. There shouldn't be a recovery period after celebrating something. Really should.
Well, it's the beauty of the metabolic balance hack, because I see it as a life hack, is that you get lots of opportunity to test things out and to work out, like, actually, when I eat out, I know exactly what works for me. I get to enjoy it and I don't have to pay. I don't have payback.
Yeah.
There's no like, oh, you have to eat this or you can't eat that. What I love about metabolic balance is it's try it and see. Body will tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that real constant learning and appreciating, checking in with yourself and moving forward. And I think, I talk a lot about that it needs to have a real lovely honesty around the relationship you have with your body and your food. Or it's a slowly evolving of that honesty. You learn and then you go, oh yeah, okay, I'm getting it. I'm sort of recognizing it now. Whereas we can all kind of have that slightly kid ourselves that this doesn't matter and that little bit won't make any difference whatsoever. But actually you go, okay, I think it really does. So you learn that. You learn that honesty yourself and you start to go, do you know what? I'm worth it. And that's another thing I just love when somebody actually starts to really say, my health is worth it. I am worth this. I am worth this effort. I am worth putting the effort into because I feel good on this and I deserve to feel good. I shouldn't have to put everybody else ahead of me. I can actually feel good myself.
I love one of my clients who actually, this particular client had a 35 kilo weight change over 2.5 years. And partway through, I think 1 year into the change, they were walking past a kickboxing studio. Now, context, this is somebody who was struggling with broad spectrum inflammation, struggled to move around, basically. Even walking short to medium distances was difficult. Would sleep in, couldn't do appointments before 2 p.m. A year into eating metabolically, could do an appointment at any time of day. Said she naturally woke up between 6:30 and 7:30 every morning and happened to be walking past a kickboxing studio and found herself, she said she didn't even think about it. She just sort of was walking past, thought that's interesting, wandered in, and got signed up for kickboxing.
It gives me goosebumps just hearing the story. Yeah.
Like 2 months in, she's like, I'm actually quite good at kickboxing. This is somebody who struggled to walk. And I don't know if you get much opportunity to talk about this, but I knew straight away what was happening because I learned about this as a metabolic balance practitioner, not as a naturopath, but as a metabolic balance practitioner in the training. I learned about Foxer2.
Yes, yes.
So what I knew, and this is the long-term sustainability aspect, or one of them for me, about metabolic balance, is that you get hormonal shift in the body, which means that the body moves towards movement. It wants to move. One of the biggest things that I notice is that when people first come to see me, you've already named it, most of the people that do metabolic balance through me have been chronically unwell and are carrying quite a lot of weight. And the last thing they feel like doing is exercising. And yet they receive a lot of societal pressure and a lot of medical pressure to exercise. When you're inflamed, unwell, when you exercise, you hurt yourself.
Yeah, it's hard. It's so hard to do. It's hard. It's infinitely harder than what people who are telling them that they need to do it realize that it's hard.
And so when I tell them that I don't want them to do any exercise, they're so relieved and a bit afraid. Like people are, but oh God, what will happen? And I'm like, nothing bad will happen. And when they then hit the point that they want to exercise, I know that the hormone Foxer2 has started to rise, and I call it the wriggle hormone. So they just get the wriggle on. Like they maybe haven't even ever experienced that before. And before they know it, they're wandering into their local kickboxing studio.
Yeah. Yeah. And realizing that they actually enjoy that movement and exercise that they previously kind of could never see themselves doing. It reminds me that, there's a lot of research that's really, we know that there's childhood obesity, and that has been rising over the years for a number of years now, a number of decades. And there's been that hypothesis, is it that the kids are getting bigger and therefore they stop moving? Or do they stop moving and they get bigger? Well, the research, when we look at it in the context of what we know, it's actually the food as causing metabolic problems, and leading them to start to feel unwell and gain the weight in not the fully healthful way. And then it's just hard for them to wriggle. Kids should be wriggling all the time. I mean, that's really that's what we know kids do. And but it is that what comes first, and then how do we correct it?
Yeah. And how do we really correct it? Because what's very interesting is I had a client recently, one of my male clients, who said, look, I've always identified as somebody who exercises. If somebody asks me, who I am, I'd say I'm a bike rider, I'm a runner, I'm a really outdoorsy person. But he said that he didn't actually realize he didn't enjoy it until he was 10 weeks into metabolic balance. So I think maybe eight to 10 weeks into metabolic balance. And he had his first completely physically enjoyable exercise experience. And he was like, I didn't realize I didn't enjoy it before. But now when I exercise, I'm not thinking about when does this end. I'm not thinking about like how hard it is. I am just doing it and my whole body is singing.
Yeah. Oh, isn't that a lovely idea? Whole body is singing beautifully, harmoniously. I also wanted to sort of, the consistency and sustainability is really where we're coming from, because with that is what we have to get to, that allows people to have the health transformations over the long term, and it's not about forcing the body into anything.
Correct. And sometimes it's about giving the body a lot of time. But the body has its own priorities. Like, we think weight loss is important, but your body might have a completely different set of criteria that it has to fulfill. And its innate wisdom has to be listened to. And if we listen closely enough, we will hear what it needs and we'll be able to guide it through. And that's what I love about metabolic balance, or another thing that I love, is that it's delivered by a practitioner. And it's why I opt for more face-to-face time than less, because I find the more you get an opportunity to talk about metabolic balance, and the more you get to see other people's journeys. I'm often directing people through to the podcast just to listen to people's story, because the more you get inspired, and the more you learn that everybody has their own unique journey through metabolic balance, the more you're able to honor your own journey through it and listen really carefully to your body.
Yeah. I love that, honoring your own journey. I love that phrase. I think we live in a society that sadly has got this, a lot of diet culture, which is incredibly toxic. Diet culture is horrible. It is cruel. There has been a lot of it's a blamed space. It's also a space, I think, of a lot of rushing. It's like deprivation, starvation, force. I exercise really hard. It's your fault. It's the person's fault. that they find themselves in a place. It's that whole, a lot of negativity, and I can't bear it.
Judgment.
Yeah. And I think when we can actually, because we have to recognize that the space, we need to have a solution, as in we need to have the metabolic solutions. And when we can actually just take somebody on this journey out of the toxic space, it's almost like let's really like take you from that, start this self-care journey, start this approach of really looking at what's going on and allowing the body to go at its own pace. One of the, if I can just indulge you, because I know I just want to share for people, one of my favorite things to talk about, or just to talk to clients about, is one of Aesop's fables. Do you know Aesop's fables? It's a very old stories, kids stories, but they often have a very strong moral to a lot of the stories. The one that I always love about, and in this context, is the story of the sun and the moon, who were having a little mini argument. Sorry, not the sun and the moon. Sorry, it's the sun and the wind. Sorry. The story of the sun and the wind, who were having a little argument. And they were arguing over who was the strongest. And so the wind said, okay, see that traveller down the road? He's got a cloak on. Whoever is stronger is the one that can get that cloak off and get him to throw it away, get it away from him. So the wind goes first and he blows really, really hard. He is really putting all of his force and effort into this. But all the traveller does is wrap the cloak even tighter around himself and does up his belt. Then the sun comes out and it's now his turn. And he then shines and he just rays down, shines down the beautiful rays, the warmth, the light, the loveliness of the sun. And the traveller relaxes and he then slowly unbuttons his coat and he takes it off. And then he's happy and he's relaxed and he's walking. Basically, I always see this as a lovely way of looking at when we are gentle and kind and nurturing and really place ourselves in a safe place, our bodies in a safe place, the release and the improvement of health can just slowly, beautifully evolve. We can't force ourselves or force things to happen just by, punishing in the gym or starving ourselves. That's not where we're going to get healthy.
Absolutely. And I one thing that I think really makes metabolic balance sustainable and work is this idea of moving between what I call the 8 pillars. They're like foundation, and then the celebrations, and being able to move seamlessly between the two, because you get to have the celebration because you've got the foundations.
Yeah.
And to see the foundations as actually like your foundations into the earth, and they come up out of the earth and they support you in your life and they support your metabolism to function effectively. And then once your metabolism is functioning effectively, it can deal with all sorts of things that it couldn't handle before. I sort of think of the metabolism a bit like a train, that if the train has ground to a halt and it's like just chuffing along at like a few Ks an hour, any bandit can jump on and cause a whole lot of havoc. Whereas if your train is speeding along at 50 or 60 Ks an hour every single day because your foundations are holding you up, supporting you, then, not so many bandits are going to be able to jump on. And, you can throw a lot at a moving train, and just the speed of the train, force field that's creating, just sort of doesn't even hit.
Yeah. So it is that building the resilience. It is the building of the resilience. But at the same time, we've talked about this before. I know we have, probably privately, but we've talked about this, where it still doesn't mean that we're not human beings who are just going to get ill as well. It's like this idea that just because we eat well, we keep our train moving beautifully, but every now and again, you're still going to you're still human. You're going to catch cold. I still get colds. I still, have moments of tiredness, and I'm a normal human being kind of thing. We're not superhumans, and I think that's something that people also need to understand. We eat well. It's over time you get better resilience, and you're not going to be flawed by something. But sometimes you still can get flawed by something.
Absolutely. And even I actually find that when your train starts to run properly, you might get sick, whereas before you never got sick. Because actually your body now has enough resources to mount a response. Whereas before you just felt exhausted, depleted, and your body was handling the challenges of life differently. So I think we often think of, getting a cold or a flu or an illness as a bad thing. But when you put it into the context of it's your body having a response, then maybe it's not such a bad thing at all. Like, actually being able to mount an immune response requires a certain amount of vitality. And if your food wasn't giving you any vitality before, you might not have even had enough substance to mount an immune response.
That's a fascinating way of looking at it as well. This is this is a normal thing. Obviously it's getting over something nice and quickly, bouncing back well. That's what resilience is, isn't it? I mean, that's really what resilience is. We can't stop things coming at us. We can't stop the stress of life, but we can change our response to it and improve our ability to spring back up again, as opposed to being flawed.
And the other thing is, actually, and I think you've just sort of said this as well, really. It's about not expecting ourselves to be anything other than human. So even once you are eating metabolically, you will eat things where you think, like I've just had a write-off of a weekend, or I went on a holiday and I fell into some really bad patterns. What I encourage people to do is to think about metabolic balance as a hack, a life hack. So you can go back to your second phase of eating at any time, for a day, for 2 days, week. That I think of the phases of metabolic balance a little bit like driving a car. I'm like, ultimately, when you really nail metabolic balance, you're just banging down the freeway in fifth gear at 100 k's an hour. But that you can't drive your whole life on a freeway. And there are going to be times when you need to reevaluate. You need to return back to your roots and reacquaint yourself, reset yourself. And this is the beauty of metabolic balance, because it's no longer a mystery to you how to do that. Done it before, you can do it again.
And ultimately, I think it's that really coming back to a different relationship with food. And that's where, even coming full circle from what we talked about at the beginning, the relationship with food that people have is incredibly complex. And we all have a different way of looking at what food is. And is it a reward? Is it a right? Is it nourishment, or is it just something that you do with the mindlessness to it? There's so much, what is it? And recognizing that, the body needs to be nourished, and it also needs to be safe. That relationship with food can be where people, don't feel safe even thinking about food or talking about food. And it's an incredible sadness that I feel for many people who are in that maybe disordered eating space. But at the same time, you could say a lot of people have, different relationships with food.
Well, I think about it as food noise. So, how much food noise is in your life? Personally, I didn't even realize how much food noise was in my life until I was probably 6 months into eating metabolically. And I was like, I have not self patrolled myself around food consumption. And I was like, oh, I have not berated myself about anything that I've eaten. Um, I have not felt like I have let myself down with the way, and I would not have identified as somebody who had any type of eating disorder whatsoever. This was just noise that I think is incredibly common in our society and experienced by most people to some degree. And once I understood that about myself, because because of its absence, not because I realized it was there in the first place. Once I realized that about myself, I started to understand so much more about disordered eating. And that disordered eating really stemmed from disordered feelings and disordered thoughts around food. And that creating structure around food actually gave me freedom from it. And I see that that's the way I work with people who know that they have disordered eating. I think the beauty of metabolic balance is that it's not about restriction. It's all about finding the balance that's right for you, and that once you actually crack that, then the freedom from food noise is really quite profound.
Yeah, and it's really recognizing that it can be tailored, and that's why it's practitioner only. I mean, we get often people asking, why can't I just get my own plan? It's like, please talk to a practitioner about really how we can make this work for you in your life, and just take, you can understand something so totally different to this idea that it's a diet. It's so much more. It can give you so much more if you allow it to, and you give yourself the space to learn in it.
It's actually about, because we have I have no idea when I hand somebody their plan. I have no idea how that is actually going to look when they start eating it. Some people end up eating twice, needing, not just eating, needing twice the amount of food that is on their plan. And I'll have other people who just eating what is on their plan feels like more food than they've ever eaten in their life, or is more food than they've ever eaten in a day in their life. And there is no predicting this.
And until somebody starts to really nourish their bodies and the body starts to change and become well. That's why, yeah, it's an ongoing wonderful journey. I have absolutely loved talking to you today, Araleena. I think you're doing wonderful work for your clients, and it's really, it's such a lovely space that um, where you get to talk to people and actually really change things and get that long term approach. Really help people have a different relationship with themselves and their futures.
That's what it enables. That's what I see, is that over years, people are able to make a profound change, not just to what they eat, not just to the size of their clothing, but really to their entire experience of life.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. Okay, well, I think we need to finish there, but I could carry on talking all day. Thank you so much, Araleena, for joining me.
I've got a discovery call that I've got to go to.
Absolutely. So thank you. And if you'd like to hear more about Araleena and her practice down in Melbourne, do check out the show notes. Check out the website, www.metabolic-balance.com, and check into all the other Metabolic Balance Stories podcast episodes, because as Araleena said, there are so many wonderful stories and each person is unique, and take those as inspiration. Thank you again to Araleena, and we will catch up again soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Jay.